All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelli Johns, and I am the Professional Development Specialist here at Britannica. In my role here, I get to speak with teachers and school librarians to share how Britannica resources can be used to help support the goals that you guys have established at your schools and districts. Here at Britannica, we've been hearing a lot about information literacy and digital citizenship, and we wanted to join in on that conversation. And let's just start by saying that as educators, you are all superheroes. Before working at Britannica, I taught in the elementary setting. I taught third grade, and the work that you guys do is really great work. So thank you for being a superhero to so many. Before we get started, there are a few housekeeping things that I always like to go over. In the top right corner of your screen, you'll notice the Go to Webinar control panel. If you want to minimize this control panel at any time, you can do so by clicking on that orange rectangle. I, of course, encourage you guys to view this in full screen, but mostly I want to say that we can communicate through the webinar through the questions box. If you have questions, you can feel free to type those in. And then if I don't get to your answer right away, I will definitely answer your question before the end of the webinar. And you don't have to wait for a question. If there's something you really love or you're really excited about, you can definitely type that into the question box as well. There are a couple of times throughout the webinar that I have questions for you, and I'd like you to put your response in that questions box as well. Just so we make sure that everyone can hear me, everyone knows where that questions box is, please go ahead and type in the number of staff you have with you. Maybe you've gathered some coworkers, maybe you're joining by yourself, whatever that is, enter that number into the questions box, please. All right, it looks like everyone is joining on their own. Sounds great. And again, feel free to ask those questions as you have them throughout the resource. All right, so a couple of things here. I have some images here for you, and I want to know, what do all superheroes have in common? And again, you can use that questions box. Some of the things that I came up with were that they are strong leaders, they're proactive, they're sometimes misunderstood, they protect, they have a concern for their community. And I think all of these descriptors can easily be assigned to educators as well. And so before we get started, I want to know, what is your superpower? What are the things that you are good at? Maybe it's connecting with kids. Maybe you are super organized. Go ahead and type that in there. What is into that questions box? What's your superpower? What's one thing you bring to the table? I have a response here that I've been teaching for nearly 20 years, so I bring that experience. Absolutely. I'm organized, I'm a good communicator, and I'm positive focus. That's great. All right, thank you for doing that. Today, we are going to be exploring the superpowers that you already have for information literacy. We're going to look at strategies and resources to sharpen and hone your skills. So let's take a look at the 4 powers. The first power for today is going to be the need. So what information do I need? And then next for the students is going to be locate. How do I find that information? Where do I find it? Who can help me? Our third power is evaluate. So does this information I found fit my needs, and is it accurate? And then lastly, use. How do I use the information I found to fit my project, fit what I already knew, fit what I was supposed to be learning about? How can I apply my new knowledge? Things like that. And so I just want to take some time to go over each of these superpowers a little bit more. So when we're talking about need and defining the information, we want to know what that means. It means identifying and developing ideas. It means determining the type of question, and then generating research and even essential questions. And I made this page here to talk about our connection boxes. So need is really brought up in a lot of things. It's brought up in the standards, it's brought up in digital citizenship, and even this conversation about inquiry. You can see that this need piece is threaded throughout all three of those. Our next superpower we have is locate information. So again, what does that mean? Why is it a superpower? We're locating sources. We're finding information within that source. Where do I look? Who do I ask? And then what kind of content do I actually need? And for those connection boxes, we got our three things here. Again, called out in the standards. With digital citizenship, they're asking where can I go for reliable information? A very timely question there. And then inquiry. So within that process, it's the investigate and gathering and evaluating that information. Our next superpower for today is evaluating and analyzing information. So how useful is it? Is it accurate? Is it adequate? And then whose point of view? Is it skewed at all? Again, those connection boxes, students are being asked to do this within the standards. Here we have a standard: analyze how two or more texts address similar themes, evaluate, delineate, those words are being in there. Is the content trustworthy and up to date with our digital citizenship? And then again, in inquiry, they're selecting the best sources. And lastly, it's putting that information to use, extracting and recording information, citing evidence, and ethical use of that information. So copyright and avoiding plagiarism there. So again, with our connection boxes, we're looking at what kind of digital footprint am I going to leave with this content? How am I synthesizing my information? And then how I am drawing evidence from this informational tech to support the research. And today we're going to be looking at Britannica School as a vessel to support the information literacy adventure. Of course, Britannica School is our resource of over 140,000 articles. It's got thousands of images, downloadable videos, and other informational text sources that we'll be exploring throughout the webinar. And you will access that resource through your Discus homepage, so www.scdiscus.org. I'm going to pause my slides and actually get to that resource for you, just so you can, if you've never had a chance to look at it, you can see what it is. So here I am at the homepage for Discus, and with this, I'm just going to go to my A to Z list. And I am going to go down to Britannica School, and I can actually access my resource there. When I click on Britannica School, you will enter your Discus username and password. If you don't have that, I do have that on a slide at the end of the webinar. But let's go ahead and get started with our first superpower for today, our need superpower. And so when we're moving through the information literacy process, we want to keep in mind that what we're really doing is we're helping students learn how to learn. And they're becoming lifelong learners here because they can find the information that they need for any task or decision that presents itself. So when we're thinking about our need superpower, we want students to have the ability to recognize the information they need. And that includes being able to identify and develop their ideas, determine the type of questions and essential questions, but also to think about the search terms that they're going to be using, and also to determine what terms they actually need to use, and then also how much information or when is more information needed. And this sounds easy until we think about how we get students to participate in this process. We might need to scaffold this for some of our students. So one way to do that is with this graphic organizer. With this graphic organizer, we are doing a couple of things. We're having students narrow down their topic. In the middle column, we're asking them to share their real life connection to the topic. And then in the right-hand column, we are asking them to think about the relationship between their topic and their connection and generate the questions that they may have. And when you confront the needs section with this approach, a number of things are happening that will be beneficial in the long run. So first, it's engaging students' interests because we're involving them in the topic selection. And it's also asking them to formulate the question. So they are doing the heavy lifting. They are doing the critical thinking. To begin filling out the graphic organizer, students will need to choose a topic, and I want to show you a place within Britannica School where students can pick a topic. Within the resource, we have an article and a media browse. And I'm actually going to pop over to the resource and demonstrate how students might use this feature to choose a topic. So bear with me for 1 second. Here I am at the home page for the Britannica School for our resource today. And again, we've accessed through scdiscus.org by going into our Britannica School resource. This homepage is a streamlined homepage for students. They can pick a learning level. There are 3 learning levels: elementary, middle, or high. Of course, they are not restricted to just one, but they can go in or can be directed into a specific learning level. And I'm actually going to start off at the middle school homepage here by clicking on this middle tab. There are a lot of great features on this page that we'll go through some of these features a little later on in the webinar, but on the right-hand side of the screen, you have, you'll see our Explore Britannica section. Every homepage has an Explore Britannica section. And one of those features that we were just talking about is the article browse and the media browse. So I'm going to click on that article browse here. This is great for today's purpose when we have students that have a research report but aren't exactly sure what to research. They can browse around these different areas and they can come here and it will help them to dial down their topic. So with this, I'm actually going to go into technology. And then I can, again, dial it down even further. I'm going to go into computers. I get all of those articles pertaining to computers. And maybe I want to do my research on artificial intelligence. So it would take me into that article. And so now as a student, I've got my topic. So I can go back to that graphic organizer that I had before. I have my topic, it's artificial intelligence. I'm thinking about some of my real life connections. Robots are a type of AI. What else do I know about artificial intelligence? There's many movies that have to do with AIs taking over the human population, most recently Ex Machina, Terminator, things like that. And then I want to think about the connection between those two. And again, we really want students to think about the relationship there to help them generate those questions, because these questions are the meat and potatoes of the need portion of information literacy. So a couple questions I came up here are: what might the effects of an increased number of AI do with the opportunities of humans, and how does AI potentially benefit or harm the environment? If students can ask these meaningful questions that are clearly formulated and are appropriate to their learning level, this whole process will be more meaningful to them and then again yield the best results. One strategy you may be familiar with is thin versus thick questions. If you attended an inquiry webinar earlier this year, this was also mentioned there, but there are a number of strategies you can use here. This was one of the strategies I used in my classroom. It was very successful. And plus, I'm from Chicago and I love my pizza. It's always on my mind. So it's a good visual for me there. So with this strategy, thin questions are the questions that can be easily answered. They are our right there questions. I like to call them our elevator questions because they don't get very deep. They're surface level. Whereas our thick questions are questions that make someone stop and think. They can't be answered with a simple yes or no. These questions address larger concepts of discussion and require further research or might require further research. So a couple examples I have here for thin questions is just what is artificial intelligence? I can easily define that, easily answer that. Who made lasting contributions to the field of artificial intelligence? What qualifications does something need to be considered a robot? Some of those thick questions that are going to require further research are those same ones from our graphic organizer. And again, those are going to require more discussion. Multiple sources may be needed to answer these questions. Again, these are the types of questions we want our students to be asking. To help with that, this is a support tool for students. This is something I also used in my classroom. We went over at the beginning of the year, and then we hung it in our classroom for students to reference while they were asking questions, whether that's with partners or even with, me. It was a really good way for them to self-monitor their type of questions that they're asking. And it was a nice way for me to be able to prompt students as well. All right, so now that we have our needs have been established, we're going to move on to locating information. This means students being able to locate sources and knowing where to look. They need to be able to determine the type of content they're going to need, figuring out who they might ask or who they might need to ask. And we'll address these within today's resources, but I want to be sure to point out that information literacy also includes locating books by call number, being able to access governmental sites, and then searching Boolean search terms or Boolean terms there. All right, I'm going to head back into our resource for today so we can move on with our locate superpower. I'm here where I left off with our artificial intelligence article by using the article browse. But if maybe someone already knew their topic, they could perform a search at the top of the search box by typing in artificial intelligence. You'll see that my recommended articles pop up. This will take me into my information faster. If I want to see all of my search results, though, and some of those content features offered to you and your students, I'm going to perform a search by clicking on that search icon. All right, so this takes us to our search results page, and we can really narrow down the focus of our search by using the advanced search hit found at the bottom. So these icons are along the left-hand side. When I go to the bottom, I'm taken to an advanced search. And when performing a search, it's really critical for students to be conscientious of what key terms will help them yield the best information. It teaches students to use these terms meaningfully. And this goes for the same with any words you want to leave out. For example, you may want to leave out movies or search terms without movies in it. Also, when it comes to locating content, we have a number of options for students to utilize. So first, we're looking at our articles, and we'll come back to that in a few minutes. We also have images here, so images for students to access. We have some videos. We do have a dictionary. This is courtesy of Merriam-Webster, so a really nice vocabulary building tool. It's a great way for students to double check their understanding of a term that they may be reading about. We also have journals and magazines. These are more sources of informational text that are courtesy of EBSCO. And then we have our Web's Best Sites. This is a collection of websites that our editorial team has gone through so that you can feel safe sending your students to these sites. And then lastly, we have our primary sources and ebooks. I'm going to go back up to my articles tab, and I want to show you one of our newer features here when you have to be clicked on articles for this to work. But at the bottom here, you'll also find a Lexile filter. With the Lexile filter, two things happen. We can adjust the range so that it's appropriate for our students' learning level, and that will adjust our search results. And then we can also see what Lexile level each article is. So again, I can tailor my search results by manipulating that filter. Another place to locate information before we go into our article is the home pages. So let's head back to this middle school homepage. I can do so by clicking on the word middle in the top banner. We've already looked at our article browse. Our image and video browse is set up exactly the same way as our article browse. It's just all of our images and videos, all our media pieces. But we can also look at our biography browse. So with this and locate information, I can choose an era. I can choose a national or cultural association. I can know I can type in what someone might be known for, maybe computer science in this case. And then I can even filter down by gender if I wanted to. So a great place to locate information there right on the homepage as well. All right, when I taught third grade, it was always challenging for me to help my students organize the information that they located. So this is a treasure hunt graphic organizer. It's one way to help them. In the far column, they would write down their content type. In the middle column, they're writing down where they found it, whether it's from Britannica or another source. And then in the last column, we want them thinking back to those need questions. Will this content piece answer your questions that you generated? So a really great piece here to share with your students. Before we move on to our use and locate portions of the webinar, I have a really quick question for you. I'm just wondering, what challenges do you face or anticipate facing when teaching and talking about information literacy with your students? We want to know, what is your kryptonite? So go ahead and use that questions box and feel free to answer in what potential problems you might notice. I often get the answer that students running to Google and taking the first answer that comes up. That is one answer, one difficulty people face. I also often get just getting students to be patient with the process and really digesting that process of going through sources and giving them a critical eye or a critical look. And again, if you have any suggestions or strategies that have worked to solve some of these challenges or help others, feel free to share that in the questions box as well. All right, let's go on to our last two superpowers. We have evaluate. Evaluating resources both in print and online is a difficult skill to master, so students will need guidance as they develop this skill. Some things to consider is, will the resource that you or your student picked out, is it going to be helpful in solving the problem? Is it effective? For example, an almanac is a great resource for pulling together statistics about a country, but not a great resource for learning about the history or politics of a country. Britannica School is a great resource for learning about the history of math and reading about mathematicians, but it isn't a great resource for practicing math skills. So keeping those things in mind. One way to help with that is by sharing the 5 W's of website evaluation with your students. This was actually pulled from a college and career readiness paper that we put out earlier this year. And the 5 W's are who wrote it? Are they an expert? What information is included? So how is it different from other sites? When was the resource last updated? Absolutely a good W there. Where does the information come from? And our last W is, why is this information useful? Why should I use it? Why is this page better than another one? And really going through this with your students again, as they go through the different websites, will help them narrow down their resource. And since today we are using Britannica as our resource, I wanted to point out some of the things that make Britannica a great resource. This is a kind of walks through the editorial process here at Britannica. It's an infographic slide that explains that. The articles in Britannica School are researched, reviewed, and edited several times before they are published. You'll also see that articles are updated frequently and are up to date with the most current information. I'm going to show you a place on the homepage where you can actually see that those updates. I have another answer to our kryptonite question. Students' critical thinking. They're frustrated if they do not find exactly what they want from the first search. Absolutely. So again, making them patient learners. I'm going to pop into our resource to show you where you can find those new and updated articles. Again, here I am where I left off at the middle school biography browse. I can find my middle school updated articles right on the homepage. If I go to the bottom here, you'll see these new and revised articles. So you can see even today we've had some revised articles. If it was new, it would say new in red next to the article title. This is also available on the high school homepage. So if I go over to my high school homepage, at the bottom here, I can see my new and updated articles or new and revised articles there as well. So we've put together a little graphic organizer for evaluating resources here. I'll pull that up for you. And this will be helpful for you and your students. You can walk them through this the first time, and then they can use it as they evaluate other sources. So they're looking here. Authorship. Is the author a reliable source? They check yes or no. The publisher. Is the website from a recognized organization or a publisher? Yes or no. Is the website neutral and unbiased? Does the website include a bibliography and acknowledge its source? Can the information on the website be confirmed or verified? Is the information current or up to date? Yes or no. And is the website a good source of information for this research project? Of course, because we're using Britannica here, we could mark those X's as yes for all of those boxes. And now that we've determined that the resource that you want is a good source, let's take a look at how you can pull all of that information from that resource. So we're at our use portion of the information literacy process. And again, it's time to pull that resource together and put it to work. So students and teachers who use Britannica School may have many different ways that they can use the online resource with many terrific sources for informational text. Again, this means looking for information, organizing that information, citing evidence, and then ethical use of that information. So avoiding plagiarism and copyright issues. I'm going to go back into our article, which we never got to. We just looked at our article. So I'm at the middle school homepage here. I'm going to go into my artificial intelligence. And now I can go directly into my article here. And I want to point out a few things as we go into the article. So at the top, we have a number of different pieces here. Every article has multimedia pieces that comes with specific citation styles included. So when I click on this, over here in this box with a check in it is a citation. I get 4 different citation styles to choose from. I can easily copy and paste that citation and then use it however I need to in my works cited or my bibliography page. All of our images, all of our videos, and all of our articles actually have that citation piece. There you can find the citation piece for the article as well. And so with this, I can actually use, I'm going back to my PowerPoint. With this, I have a graphic organizer that's available to you. You can keep track of various resources here, the content, and the proper citation with this handy chart. So you're just simply going to plug in the information that you gathered from each resource along with the proper citation for each piece of information. And this citation information helps to keep your students accountable for the information that they use. So again, this is to help guard against plagiarism and any of those copyright issues that may arise. I'm going to pop back into my article and go over some of those other features that are available to you guys in every article on Britannica School. The first thing I want to show you is this print or email option. So you can always send the article and use it however you might need. We looked at the citation piece. We also have a read aloud function. And so with this, I can translate this article into one of 80 different languages here. So again, a really great piece. The full text is translated. All of my tabs are translated as well. And then to get back to my original article, I just click on Show Original. I also have a read aloud function. Artificial intelligence. This is coming through my headphones, so I had to turn it off because I can't think and speak at the same time. But you can see that the text was highlighted for the students. It's a great way for students to take notes while the article is being read to them. And then we can increase and decrease the font. So making sure everyone can see the information. Another piece that we have here is a reading level piece. This is a really great way for students to manipulate the information and make sure that they can understand and comprehend the information that they're getting. So if this article tends to be a little bit too hard for students, they can actually click on level 1. They're getting that elementary article here, less information, less complex text, but it stays in that middle school environment. Same thing with bumping up. If I know all of this information, I can bump up to that high school level text, get more information, more text, a more complex text as well. And then all of our articles have something called the Quick Click Dictionary. So if I'm a student, I can double click on any word in this article. I get the definition, the pronunciation, and also the Spanish translation if there is one. So again, that great vocabulary building tool right in the context of what I'm talking about or thinking about or researching. All right. So once you've decided, maybe you love this article and you want to save some of these pieces, you can save them to your own My Britannica account. And actually, you can organize it into resource packs. And resource packs are a part of My Britannica. Again, a really terrific way for teachers and students to pull together the information that they found in Britannica School. If you don't already have a My Britannica account, you're just going to click on My Britannica, click on Sign Up Now. There's 2 types of accounts here. There's a student account and an educator account. For a student account, all students need to do is enter the first 3 boxes. They enter a username and a password of their choice. This is not given to them by Britannica. If a student, and then that's all a student needs to do and click OK. If you are an educator, you're going to enter a username and password of your choice. You're also going to enter your email. And that's just so we can look up your username and password if you ever forget it. We cannot look up students' username and password, so you want to be sure they're using something they will remember. And then you're also going to enter the school code, because the difference between the educator account and the student account is a lesson plan browse and a lesson plan builder. Everyone's school code is the same. It's Discus 7. oops, one S, sorry, Discus 7, all lowercase. And again, that's going to give educators access to the lesson plan browse and the lesson plan builder with that educator account. And then all you do is click OK. I have this school code on a slide. So if you didn't get it now, don't worry, you will be able to view it later. I already have an account, so I'm going to go ahead and get logged in. And now you can see that my content has expanded out along the top. So I have my Britannica, a lesson plan browse option, and a log out option. We know that this is an educator's account because that lesson plan browse option is there. If it was a student account, it would just say my account and log out. Let's take a look at the content that I've ever saved. I've pulled together. Here you can see I have 282 items in my favorites. So again, these are different content pieces, some articles, some images, some primary sources. You can also see that it tells me if it's an article, what level it's been saved from. I, again, like to think of this as my online file cabinet. So all of my favorite pieces are in one spot for me. My resource packs are along the left-hand side of my favorites. These are my online file folders. These are how I organize all of those favorites. So let's go into a pack here, my artificial intelligence pack. Again, if I'm a student doing research, this might be really helpful. You can see that when I get into a pack, it tells me exactly what's in my pack. I have 3 videos, 4 articles, and 2 images in this pack. I also have the ability to upload and add my own content. So maybe I have a graphic organizer I want my students to use, or maybe I have a rubric for a research project. Maybe I have another content piece that's not within Britannica School. I can add that to this pack by simply just clicking on that edit or add content. When I do that, I can scroll down to the bottom and upload my own document and then save the changes to that pack. In a pack here, it tells you what is in your pack, and then each of the content pieces give you the ability to type a note here. And these notes come in really handy. Again, they can just be for personal use, but they could even be for grade level partners. They can be guiding questions. They can be notes for students. Because at the top here, you can always rename a pack, you could delete a pack, you can always email a pack, but the bread and butter here is the share pack. Every resource link, every resource pack in Britannica School has its own unique resource link, so its own unique link here. And I can share everything in my pack, including those notes, with anybody I give this link to. So I'm going to copy this link. I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to go into a browser where I'm not logged into my Britannica account. And I'm going to paste that link in there. And you'll see, because I shared that link with this browser, I can access all of my resources there, all of my article, my content pieces. So again, I can put that link on a Google Drive, a Google Classroom. I can write it on a whiteboard. Students can save it. Again, just a really great way to share the content and collect that piece. And maybe they're working in a group project, they can share it with their other group members as well. Let's go ahead and save a piece here. Let's go back into our artificial intelligence here. Let's see, we'll go back into our article. We have a related tab here. Maybe I want to save this computer piece. When I click on it, it's starred. I know it's already in my pack. Let's see if I could save. Let's go into a topic where I haven't looked at today. Maybe I'm going to go into atoms. Now I can click on my favorites piece. It's been saved to my content, and from here I can add it to an existing resource pack, or I can start a new one. So now it is saved to my Atom resource pack. Maybe I'd like to save this image as well. Atoms is already at the top there, and then it will be saved to my my resource pack. When I go back to my content, Those pieces that I saved are right at the top of my favorites, and also that resource pack has been started for me. All right. So a couple things we have for you here. Of course, you already know how students can share what they found in Britannica School. These are just some ideas. Create posters, Prezi points, websites, make their own website, a school newspaper or report paper. They could even do readers theater. Infographics are huge. They can create their own or even create a timeline. Our last 10-second share here is just, I would love you to share out what you plan on taking back. Maybe it's your idea of information literacy or understanding there. Maybe it's a resource pack idea. But go ahead and use that question box and tell us one thing you really loved. The resource packs, absolutely, we'll be using those. Great. Alrighty, to finish up here today, I just wanted to remind you of some of your Britannica resources. So we went over Britannica School, but courtesy of Discus, you also have Britannica Library, Britannica Escolar, which is our fully in Spanish website for our K through high school users. Britannica Moderna is high school and up. And then our world data analyst. And then again, all of those can be found at scdiscus.org. Again, I like this infographic. It kind of just talks through students with you making information literacy skills apparent in their everyday life. So whether they're looking for a doctor or something fun to do, they might ask friends, read reviews. If they've ever gotten an email that they're not quite sure is safe, they can use their information literacy skills there too. If they have a question, keeping them up at night, they can find an expert in the field and then go through that evaluation piece with them as well. You guys, a couple pieces of information here. Your school code is up there, Discus 7. If you need it, that remote access username and password, Discus 18 and Explore. My email's on here at kjohns@eb.com. If you ever have technical support, you can always email salessupport@eb.com or give them a ring. I want to encourage you all to follow us along on social media. We promote specialized webinars. Sometimes we give away activities, resources, things like that. But yeah, I will stay on the line if there's any questions. If not, thank you guys so much for following along today. I really appreciate it, and hopefully it was beneficial to you.